4 years ago, Marcus Rashford was England's villain, booed by his own fans, blamed for England's Euro final defeat, and received death threats and racist abuse that nearly broke him. But today, that same player isn't just scoring crucial goals for England again. He's doing it in the iconic colors of FC Barcelona, leading their attack and feeding millions of children along the way. In the next 12 minutes, witness the complete rise, fall, and unexpected Barcelona reign of Marcus Rashford.
Marcus Rashford has rifled it in! That is a smashing goal for Manchester United! Boy, that was fierce.
Before Marcus Rashford was scoring in front of 70,000 at Old Trafford, he was just another kid from Wythenshawe, one of Manchester's toughest estates, where football dreams usually get swallowed by concrete. His mother, Melanie Maynard, was raising 5 kids on her own, often working multiple jobs just to keep food on the table. Rashford would later say, "Sometimes there wasn't enough. My mom had to go without so we could eat." Those words would later become the reason why, years later, he would fight tooth and nail to make sure no child in Britain went hungry. But back then, Marcus wasn't a campaigner, at least not yet. He was just a shy boy who clung to his football as a way out. His first taste of football was on the rough pitches of Fletcher Moss Rangers, a tiny grassroots club in South Manchester. But Fletcher Moss isn't just any local club. It's a factory of United legends. Wes Brown, Jesse Lingard, and Danny Welbeck all passed through the same academy. Scouts knew it well. Still, when they first saw Rashford, he didn't look like much. He was skinny, quiet, and barely said a word. But on the pitch, different story. Coaches remembered his explosiveness, his balance, how he always seemed 2 steps ahead. By age 7, United had signed him to their academy. But signing didn't translate to success for him. For the next 9 years, Rashford sacrificed everything. Birthdays, weekends, holidays, all traded for endless training sessions, long commutes, and the relentless pressure of carrying Manchester United's badge on his chest. By 2016, he was still relatively unknown outside academy circles. He wasn't a golden boy like Rooney or Giggs before him. He was a prospect, a brilliant one, no doubt, but nothing like the Pogbas. But then fate had a different way of seeing it. On a particular day, one of United's senior strikers got injured just before a Europa League tie against Midtjylland. Louis van Gaal had no choice but to throw in the 18-year-old Rashford. What happened next turned a quiet academy graduate into a household name. Rashford marked his debut with 2 goals.
Towards Memphis, bouncing around Mata to cut it back again, and Rashford has got the dream goal that he was looking for in his debut, and one he will never, ever forget.
3 days later, another 2 against Arsenal, his boyhood club's fiercest rivals. In the space of 1 week, Marcus Rashford went from an anonymous teenager to Manchester's newest hero. This fairy tale debut was the start of an expectation, a pedestal so high that when Rashford stumbled years later, the fall would feel twice as painful. But for now, Rashford's story was only just beginning. By the summer of 2016, Rashford wasn't Manchester's secret anymore. He was England's. Roy Hodgson shocked everyone by naming an 18-year-old with barely 20 senior appearances in his Euro squad. And when he came off the bench against Wales, his first touches had the entire nation asking, "Who is this kid?" At United, things only escalated. He became the youngest English player to score in a European competition, then the youngest to score on his senior England debut.
Oh my goodness!
Every time he was thrown into the fire, he thrived. That quiet boy from Wythenshawe suddenly carried the most famous shirt in football, United's number 10. Rooney had worn it, Beckham had worn it, and now it belongs to Marcus Rashford. But what really separated him wasn't the goals. It was the sense that Rashford was something more, not just a footballer, but a symbol. He played with fearless joy, yes, but off the pitch, that's where the story became bigger than football. You see, Rashford never forgot the hunger of his childhood. And when the UK government slashed funding for free school meals during the pandemic, Rashford, at just 22, did the unthinkable. He took on the government, He wrote open letters, launched campaigns, and told his own story of relying on free lunches to survive. "Without the kindness of my community, I wouldn't be standing here today," he said. This wasn't a PR stunt. This was a lived experience, and the nation felt it. Parents wrote to him thanking him for keeping their children fed. All of a sudden, that kid from Wythenshawe wasn't just a striker for United anymore. He was an MBE, honored by the Queen herself. He was on the cover of magazines, hailed as a national treasure. Journalists called him the moral compass of a generation. For many, he wasn't just scoring goals on the pitch, he was scoring victories off it that felt far more important. The timing only made the legend grow. On the field, Rashford hit his peak between 2018 and 2020. Under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, he became United's attacking spearhead, scoring 22 goals in 2019 and 2020 alone. But here's the thing about being a golden boy, it doesn't last forever. The higher your pedestal, the more people wait for the cracks to show. And soon enough, they did. Injuries, fatigue, and the crushing weight of expectation would collide in brutal fashion. Because as quickly as Rashford rose, football was about to remind him mercilessly how far a star can fall. July 11th, 2021, Wembley Stadium, 65,000 fans on their feet, millions glued to their screens. England versus Italy, Euro 2020 final. The tension was unbearable. The game, which had been exciting from end to end, had now come to penalties. And finally, it was Marcus Rashford's turn. This was supposed to be the perfect ending. The boy from Wythenshawe, who had forced the government to feed starving kids, now had the chance to feed a starving nation its first major trophy in 55 years. His run-up was slow, deliberate, almost theatrical. And then this happened. The ball cannoned off the post. In a split second, the English dream collapsed. That night, Rashford's mural in Manchester, once a symbol of hope, was defaced with slurs. His inbox overflowed with death threats. Racist abuse poured in from all directions, and the same country that hailed him as a savior now condemned him as a traitor. But here's the truth. Wembley wasn't the beginning of Rashford's fall. It was just the moment the whole world saw it. Long before that game, the cracks had already been forming. For over a year, Rashford had been running on fumes. He played through injections and painkillers, too proud to sit out, too desperate to keep United afloat. By the time he walked up to take that penalty, he was carrying himself on willpower alone. And instead of compassion, he got cynicism. On the pitch, the numbers told the story. His goals dried up. His explosive pace, once his superpower, looked dulled. It wasn't just form he lost, it was an identity. Rashford had built his career proving he could be both, an elite footballer and a social activist, a player who shined on the pitch and stood for something bigger off it. But now, the two worlds seemed to be tearing him apart. Every missed shot became ammunition. Every speech or campaign outside football became a stick to beat him with. And yet, this wasn't rock bottom. Wembley was only the crack in the dam. The following 2 seasons were the flood that came after. At Manchester United, Erik ten Hag had arrived with bold promises of discipline and revival. But while United slowly found their shape, Rashford drifted further from his. He looked like a man second-guessing his own instincts. For fans who had seen him rise as a teenager, it was painful. Some nights, Old Trafford, the very place that had once adored him, complained louder than any opposition crowd when he missed chances. But it wasn't over. Then came the World Cup. For most players, it's the stage that redeems everything. But for Rashford, Qatar was a blur of uncertainty. In some games, he was benched. In others, he barely touched the ball. His tournament came and went without impact. England exited, and Rashford faded back into the noise. The speculation grew louder. Could this be it? Was this the end of Rashford at Manchester United? This was his darkest valley. But just when everyone thought his story was over, another chapter was waiting, one no one saw coming. When the whispers first surfaced, most people laughed. Marcus Rashford to Barcelona? It sounded like fantasy, like the kind of rumor an agent plants in a newspaper to inflate his client's value. Barcelona was supposed to be broke, clinging to the last memories of Messi, selling off assets just to keep the lights on. Rashford, meanwhile, looked broken, out of form, out of love with football, and out of answers at Manchester United. And yet, the call came. Barcelona's new project needed energy. They needed a forward who could stretch defenses, who could dart into the spaces. Hansiflick looked at Rashford and didn't see the tired boy from Manchester. He saw the reloaded version at Aston Villa, waiting to be utilized, a player who, in the right environment, could still terrify defenders. So he took that leap of faith. Wythenshawe's own, swapping Manchester rain for Catalan sun. A new language, a new culture, and a dressing room packed with young talent all fighting for space. Every touch, every run, every training drill felt like an audition. However, September 18, 2025 arrived. Champions League football under the lights at St. James Park. Newcastle's return to Europe had turned the city into a cauldron. Black and white shirts flooding the streets. A noise that rattled the glass before kickoff. For Barcelona, it was hostile ground. For Rashford, it was a test of whether the leap to Spain had been worth it. And as he'd proved, it was. In this game, Rashford scored twice. A header, then a rebound, was hammered home with the kind of venom United fans had once worshipped. The numbers began to tell their own story. Today, Rashford has over 5 assists and 2 goals in 6 games across all competitions, his best return in years. But the more important part is the way he moves now. The sharpness is back. The fearlessness is back. Defenders back off from him again, not because of his reputation, but because he could hurt them. And the fans, they embrace him. For a kid who once painted murals in Manchester only to see them defaced, this is a healing experience. For the first time in years, Marcus Rashford feels loved unconditionally. Barcelona's style suits him perfectly. Flick gives him freedom, drifting wide, cutting inside, attacking with abandon, while their possession play meant he didn't need to chase every lost ball. Surrounded by midfielders who thrived on giving him service, Rashford rediscovered the joy that had seemed buried under years of pressure. Against all odds, the player who had once been written off has now found his true home in the vibrant heart of Catalonia. And I truly hope he can keep this up. In many ways, Rashford has come full circle. From the dirt pitches of Wythenshawe to the grand stage of Camp Nou. From being a boy mocked for his misses to a man celebrated for his second chances. He's proven that greatness isn't about never stumbling. It's about stumbling, standing back up, and daring to run even faster. He left the club he loved, endured the darkest criticisms, but emerged stronger, bolder, and more potent than ever, not just as a goal scorer for Barcelona, but as a global voice for justice. His story serves as a profound reminder that true greatness lies in the courage to rebuild, to redefine yourself, and to let your actions, both on and off the field, speak loudest.